So your time in WWE when you came back for SmackDown, what was kind of your takeaway? And Bruce Pritchard saying to you, "Hey, everything here is different. We're trying to change things." Did it feel different to you?
Renee, I'd never been in management before. My previous experience with WWE, although it was for 3 or 4 years, whatever it was, I was a talent. I'd fly in on Sunday night. I'd do Monday Night Raw. I'd get up Tuesday morning. I'd be home Tuesday afternoon. And there would be no communication usually during the week unless it was something really unique.
Mm-hmm.
So that was easy for me at that time. So I didn't know what, things were like in the office. I didn't know what a difference would look like because I had no point of reference, right?
Yeah.
Now, I will say, and Bruce was sincere and he was honest, there was an attempt. And I'm sure some of the things that were going on in terms of restructuring and reorganizing creative and creating a SmackDown director and a Raw director, some of those initiatives are probably still part of the WWE creative business model today. So I'm not suggesting that they completely abandoned what they were working towards. That would be a radical difference from what it had been, whatever that was.
Yeah.
But it was tough, man. The people there, the culture there, the guy at the top, probably better than I do. You probably work closer with him than I did in some respects, or at least for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But change isn't easy,
No.
especially when you've got somebody is such a stickler for control.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard to change things when you got a guy that's writing the checks, so to speak, calling all the shots. Hard to get that guy to change.
Yeah.
So some of it I'm sure worked, some of it didn't, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to try.
And I feel like the word that you use of like the attempt, I feel like there's always that attempt for change. Through my duration of my time at WWE, it always felt like they were on the cusp of like, we've got to change this. We want to try this new thing. Try to throw in some more pop culture references. These are the type of wrestlers that we're looking for. This is what we want our broadcasters to be like. There's always this feel of change in the air, but I feel like it's sort of a non-committal change because everyone always knows that we're essentially going to revert back to what the regular system is, which as it always is whatever Vince wants. So it's hard to get that change to really happen and to really stick. As much as you can bring in new people and you try these new ideas out, it can just be super, super hard to get changes truly implemented, it feels.
I agree. We're basically saying the same thing from two different perspectives. And I think television needs to change. I mean, especially episodic television that's on 52 weeks a year, and particularly when you've got the sheer volume, 5 hours in prime time, 2 of those hours on a major terrestrial network. That's a lot of content. And that's part of the challenge, I think, is WWE has become a victim in many respects of their own success, massive success, massive global success. But because they're servicing that master global appetite, they've got to keep moving fast. They got to move fast. And I think there's always an urgency when you're trying to keep up with how television audiences are changing, how the competitive landscape is changing. And when you're faced with the sheer volume of content that WWE produces and just the natural, evolution of the audience and the entertainment that it searches for, it's tough to actually get anything done because in order to really affect a change and determine whether it's a good or bad change is you have to give it time. It's not like flipping a switch. You can't walk into a dark room, flip on a switch and go, oh, I can see everything now. Yeah. Sometimes you got to let the audience adapt to the change in order to register whether it's a good change or not.
Absolutely. It seems like there's that knee-jerk reaction if something doesn't instantly stick, that it's back to the original model, which, it sucks when you have, especially when you know that it is a good idea and has some legs or something that could, get a little momentum behind it. What were some of the ideas that you wanted to bring to the table to SmackDown?
I didn't go in with a lot of what people would consider creative ideas. because I didn't, and I told this to Vince, before I agreed to come on board, or he agreed to hire me, I should say, is I hadn't been watching the product much. I drop in every once in a while, like I still do. I probably watch it a little bit more now because I find myself being asked questions about current product, and I feel like a knucklehead when I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So I'll pick out certain things that are topical and I'll tune in to see how they're progressing. But for the most part, and I didn't even do that back then. Every once in a while, if there was nothing else on and I was in the right mood, I'd drop in on wrestling for 20 minutes or a half an hour, and I'd bail out and go do something.
Yeah.
So I didn't go in with a lot of, hey, what if we have a match between this guy and this guy? And what if that match leads to wrestling? I didn't come, nothing like that. But one of the things that I am disappointed in myself is that I really, and I still do actually more so today than ever in my life, I really think what's missing, and this goes for WWE and everybody else that's producing professional wrestling for content, is the de-emphasis of story at a time when the audience is watching so much great, compelling story and great story structure and great characters on so many other platforms now. I mean, scripted entertainment is probably more successful now than it's ever been.
Oh, yeah.
Some really good stuff available on Hulu. I'm watching a series now, a limited series called Dope Sick.
Oh, yeah. Is that good?
It is unbelievable because it's drama, but set in it's a docudrama, right? So it's partially documentary, partially drama, and it's done so well and it's so relevant, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, the core of that story, the premise of that story is Purdue Pharma and opioid addiction, and which led to heroin addiction, and how the government was a part. I mean, it's all true. That's the documentary part of it. But the way it's acted out and written and scripted is phenomenal. It's like unbelievable. And there's so many others just like that I've not even heard of.
Yeah.
Where in wrestling, rather than gravitating towards a more sophisticated storytelling structure, not an angle that turns into a wrestling match, because that's what wrestling does. That's what wrestling's almost always done. Right? Every once in a while, they'll stumble into a good story that'll really resonate, but it's more by accident than design.
Right.
And I think that if wrestling today would re-emphasize and introduce a more sophisticated storytelling formula, and I told Vince, one of my first meetings I had with Vince when we were talking about the job, I said, man, here's what I see, where the opportunity lies. The audience is getting smaller and smaller for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the stories suck. They're just not stories. There's no structure to them. The beginning and middle and end is like thrown together haphazardly. That's not how stories are generally created. And they weren't when I was there last time. And I don't think they are anywhere else. There's a way to do it. And that's what I'm disappointed myself in, is I wasn't able to play the game or manage myself. That's really the way to say it. I wasn't able to manage myself well enough to be there long enough to really try to affect that change.
Okay, so what do you mean by that? Of like the way that you managed yourself? What would you have done differently or should have done differently?
I've had a lot of time to think about this.
Good. I know you're caffeinated, so unleash.
Partly because I get asked that a lot, and it's forced me to think about it. And here's where I f***ed up. All right. I went into WWE overly concerned about the way people perceive me.
Okay.
And by that, I mean, not people that I meet on the street, but in a wrestling environment, there's been so much narrative about how heavy-handed I can be and difficult at times, which some of that's true. I don't deny it. But it's been way blown out of proportion. And it was really important to me. This is my error in judgment. It was more important to me to fit in to the system and eventually try to implement my ideas and the things that I wanted to do, I don't think that's what Vince wanted. Now now looking back on it, I think, what if I would have gone in there and been the kind of alpha executive that we all know Vince likes?
Right.
And I could have done that because it's not, alien to my nature to be very aggressive and focused. And sometimes that rubs people the wrong way.
That's such a catch-22 though, because I mean, I get where you're coming from with that, because I mean, a big part of the wrestling culture is being able to fit in. People that don't fit in, they get booted as well. So, I mean, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. That if you do go against the grain, yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of shooting your shot. There's times that I think about that too. I'm like, man, I like, even when I look back at my time on commentary, and it wasn't a thing that I enjoyed, and I wish that I had a better relationship with Vince, or more of a relationship with Vince. But at times I was just like, I kind of just want to like skirt by, and I don't want to have these conversations because I don't feel like he wants to have these conversations with me. That I wish that I had kind of extended that olive branch a little bit more, put myself out there more, like knocking on his door and going to see him and talking to him and grill and all that. But it can be really hard to get Vince's ear. And I don't know if you felt that way when you were there, being brought in more of that executive role and being someone that, obviously you'd be more familiar with coming in. But did you feel like it was difficult getting like FaceTime with Vince?
No. In fact, I had way more of it than I wanted to.
My condolences.
No, and look, I like Vince. I mean, we're not like, let's go out to dinner friends, right? We're not ride or die friends, none of that.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of respect for Vince. And I'm really disappointed in myself that I didn't manage myself better to get more of an opportunity to work with him. Here's where I made my mistake though, because it is a catch-22, except I knew going in, based on not what I learned firsthand about Vince, but everybody around him, including Pritchard, who's as close to him really, especially right now, as anybody, and has been for decades, right? I mean, I was tipped, I kind of knew it. My instinct, I competed with the guy, right? I kind of knew what he was about from that perspective. And everything I've ever heard about Vince is he just wants you to come in and take control. He wants you to take ownership. He wants to be surrounded by certain people, aggressive people, who approach their business in an aggressive way. That's who he is, right? Certainly. Of course, he's going to want somebody just like him. Or as close to him, or his approach to things as possible. Yeah. And I went in taking the, okay, I'm just going to work my way into the system. And when the time is right, and by the way, it would take me at least 6 months or more to really get to understand what my assets were, really get to understand the writers and what some were really good at and some weren't that good at. So you're not putting them into situations that they're probably going to fail at. Sure. Because you're just handing them assignments as opposed to really nurturing them and helping guide them into the types of scenes and writing that they're most successful at or could be most successful at. That just takes time. And then you got to get to know the talent and not just say, backstage, hey, how are you? My name's Eric Bischoff. Hey, I know who you are. Yeah. Okay, great. Let's get together and talk about your ideas. Okay. I got to get to a rehearsal. That's not how you do that. You need to spend some time at least I do, maybe other people have different talents and they can, look at somebody from across the room and go, okay, you'd be perfect at that. But I don't think that's true.
Santa baby, it's holiday season and you don't know what to get as a gift or a stocking stuffer? Well, today's sponsor, which is Manscaped, has the tools to guarantee that you win this year's stocking stuffer competition. Manscaped, thank you very much for giving me an excuse to get all of the gifts that he has been needing all year round. We've changed more than 4 million men worldwide for the better. Now, if my math is correct here, that's almost 8 million balls. Yes, 8 million sets of balls. That's a lot of balls, you guys. So you guys get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com with the code Renee. That's RENEE. So the thing that I personally love is Manscaped's Lawnmower Body Trimmer. This is the best trimmer on the market for your man's balls, back, chest. The list goes on. And there's also the Weed Whacker that's good for ears and nose. Here are some of the other picks for Manscaped Surefire Win stocking stuffers. There's the Manscaped 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner that just launched, so it's just about time that he can stop stealing yours. There's the Shears 2.0 luxury 4-piece nail kit, the Crop Mops ball wipes. You can get this little go-to solution for them stanky balls. So all of these formulations are vegan, cruelty-free, dye-free, sulfate-free, and paraben-free. So you know that his cojones are in good hands. So make sure that you hurry onto their site to ensure that these wild gifts show up just in time for the holiday season. And while you're at it, help yourself to an extra 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Just use the promo code Renee, Renee. So whether it's for your partner, your dad, your brother, your friend, whatever man is in your life, get them something that they're going to actually use in almost sure than anything they're going to get a laugh out of. Get you some Manscaped. Get your balls right. What were production meetings like for you? I mean, that's sort of what I like when you were there. I would always like kind of be at the back hanging out. I could see you at the front. I was like, what does Eric Bischoff think of all of this? When you stepped in and just like how the shows are put together and how those production meetings are run.
Renee. Only you could get me to talk about things like this because I don't get to talk about many of the people that were there too.
Oh, I was there, baby.
I'm gonna say that I want to say this the right way. My first visceral reaction was, this is a fucking waste of a lot of time.
Sure. They're long.
You do not need all of those people in one large meeting.
Just get to the small meeting, right? Get to the small group.
And when you're going through a format, I don't give a shit. I don't need to know, when a graphic is going to hit. The guys in the truck need to know that. They should have their own production meeting.
Yes.
Right? I don't need to know that. And to spend 2 hours going over that stuff that you really only needed about an hour tops, 45 minutes if you're focused to get through. And then to tie up all of that staff who are not doing other things that they could actually be doing.
And holding your pee for like hours on end. Ooh, that's the worst
and here's
part.
the best part. When you get through all that. Oh, and by the way, we worked on all that stuff during the week before we got to TV. It isn't like this is the first time anybody's ever seen this shit, right? So then you sit through that 2 hour, 3 hour production, whatever the hell it was. Oh, by the way, and while you're sitting there starving because you haven't had lunch yet, you're watching Hunter and Vince and pounding down filet mignon and sushi while you're all sitting there sucking down warm coffee in a styrofoam cup. No, I thought that was a real waste of time. And then here's the best part. Everybody does get to eat lunch. They go off and start doing the things that everybody thought they were assigned to do at the end of that prolongated luncheon for the McMahon family and its extended clan. And then you find out, we're tearing this shit up and we're going to start all over again at 5 o'clock.
Oh my God, the stress and the anxiety of like, hey, what are we doing? What's going on? All right, we got a couple hours of showtime. Wait, the show's being rewritten. Okay, great.
And we're not talking about just, let's take this match and move it from segment 3 to segment 6, or somebody got hurt in the back. So let's rebook another match and figure out a way to explain it, make sense out of it. It's not that. It's
we're blowing it up.
We're blowing it up.
Yep. The old man's working on the show. He's rewriting the whole thing by himself.
Honestly, Renee, I don't know if you had this experience, but I was literally, there were times like 15 minutes before showtime and we're rewriting scenes.
Yes. We would be going out there to the commentary desk with nothing. We would be waiting for Sweet Tamario to bring us our scripts so that we're like, okay, this is what's going on. But sometimes I enjoy that as like the performer side in me is like, all right, let's throw shit against the wall and see what's going to happen. But like,
here's the other side. Here's the other side of that. So I don't, because I'm grateful for that experience. I know it sounds like I'm, slamming on them, but I'm not. I'm just telling the truth.
No, that's just how it is.
And you asked me how it made me feel. I don't know that how it made everybody else feel. They may have dug it. They may have felt it was valuable. I'm just telling you from my perspective, because I kept thinking, what would I do if I was taking this over? Well, first thing I would do is change this meeting format because we're wasting tons of freaking time.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, it's working for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough formula for people to adapt to. It's tough for someone like me because of the way I think and the way I prefer to work, to adapt to. It's tough on talent, but it's working.
Yeah.
So
Certainly. It works for them. It
What do
works
I
for them,
know?
and people work under pressure. So you're right. It is what it is. There's times you're like, I feel like time could be managed a little bit better. We could be a little bit more productive with X, Y, and Z. But yeah, what do I know either? I don't know shit about shit. I don't know nothing.